Well, hello, Canadian Campaholic here with a review video. This is our Salem Cruise Lite 197bh. This is a 2017 model. We've now owned this for about 7 years, so I thought I would do a little review video, take you through some of the details about this trailer and what it's been like owning it. We purchased it brand new in September of 2017. It was manufactured in April of 2017. We paid about $16,000 brand new from a dealer down near Smithville, Ontario, Smithville RV. This is a Forest River camper, and the thing to keep in mind is this is long before the COVID trailers were a thing with the horrendous build quality. Now, even back in the days when this was built, build quality was something that was a little questionable for some North American manufacturers, but let's take a tour and review how it's been owning this for the last 7 years. So the rig's all parked on the lawn for winter, so a lot of it is shut off. The battery's been disconnected and whatnot, but I guess we'll start with the exterior, starting with the tongue jack itself. Tongue jack has worked really well. The only issue we ever had with the tongue jack is that this switch failed and we had to replace the switch. There's a video on my channel detailing that. No issues with the coupler. Propane system has been absolutely fine. We've had no issues with the regulator, no issues with the pipes and everything for the propane system. That's all been good. Battery, no challenges with the battery itself in terms of its use. In fact, we're still using the same battery that was provided with the unit when we got it. It's one of those maintenance-free batteries that's sealed, and we keep it on a smart charger in the winter, and we keep it charged when the rig's not in use. So battery's still doing well. The voltage is good. Capacity's still good, which is surprising. We did change the 7-way cable, but that really didn't need to be changed. We were troubleshooting a wiring issue, which is detailed in another video on my channel. But yeah, everything here has been fine. No issues with the frame at all, or the axle. Let's talk a little bit about the exterior. Keeping up on top of the seals has been important. The only leak that we've ever had was this seal right here where the aluminum paneling comes together. I had to put some silicone up in there because under heavy rains we'd get a little bit of dribbling water inside the trailer. But the rubber roof, I've kept it clean, kept it sealed with Dicor, and no leaks so far. The awning is fine. No issues with the awning. It's had a few scrapes from trees. The one challenge we are having is the LED light strip. Some of the diodes in there are failing, so when you turn the colors on, some of the colors are a little bit messed up. I'm not an expert on this, but I believe the colors that you see in an LED light strip are actually made up of 3 colored diodes, kind of like old school televisions, and it mixes those colors to give the illusion to your eyes of, you know, green, red, purple, whatever. The white LEDs work fine, but the colored LEDs, there will be little strips of 3 or 4 of the actual LED squares where the color will be off a little bit, so eventually we're going to have to look at replacing that. Water heater, gas water heater. The control board did fail on it a couple of years after we bought the trailer. I have a video on the channel talking about how we changed that. The fridge, it's a Dometic fridge. On the exterior, we do have an issue with, I think it's called the thermistor, I think it's called. But it's basically the sensor that is clipped onto the back fins of the fridge. I believe it's failed because we're having issues with the fridge freezing everything that's in it. Even in warm, hot weather. So I'm going to have to change that very soon. No issues with the speakers or the electrical system. The jacks, the corner stabilizers, they're pretty cheap, but no issues with them. I've had to, put a little bit of rust paint on them. Same with the step, a little bit of rust paint, but everything functions fine. Door's fine. Did have to get an extra key for it, but the actual lock mechanism is fine. The door seals well, no problems there. Windows haven't been a problem in terms of the seal. Going around the rear of the trailer, still got the original spare tire on it. Never actually had to use it, but it's in good shape. No problems with the bumpers or the lights. Everything is working well there. Coming down this side of the trailer, we did have to replace the tires. It had cheap Castle Rock tires on it. and about 4 years into owning it, we had to change out the tires. They were weather checked pretty badly, even though we kept them covered in the winter months. Windows, no problems, just keeping the seals inspected and making sure that's all sealed up. Air conditioner, I have a video on the channel about this, but it's been a pain in the butt. The condensation drips inside pretty profusely, so I would never buy a rig with a wall-mounted air conditioner again. But yeah, on the exterior, a few dents and dings. We used to park this thing in a storage facility, and some of the other tenants were a bit careless. There was a lot of contractors and guys with trucks and stuff that would go in and out on a regular basis, and a few of them smacked into the trailer, so I've got some dents and damage at the front here. And a few scrapes, maybe cutting it a little tight into some bushes and stuff into some of the smaller campsites. But yeah, that's an overview of the exterior. Now we'll head inside and talk about the interior. Alright, so I'm going to apologize in advance for the poor lighting. There's no power in the rig right now. The battery is out of it. Maintenance charge in the shop. But we'll try to do our best. So, starting at the front of the trailer, I mentioned when we were outside there was a little bit of water leaks coming in the side here from that front panel. They used almost like a putty, almost like a spackling putty on the edge of this strip of wood with the Luan on it, and it was here too, and that has crumbled a little bit, which is a little bit odd. But other than that, no major issues or leaks or anything with the front of the trailer. The shelf has been absolutely fine. The bed, those of you that follow the channel know that the bed came with just one of these god-awful teddy bear mattresses, I guess, on the front. And we've added several layers of memory foam. God, there's got to be like 6 inches of memory foam under there now to make this a much more comfortable proposition. The bed does have a panel that lifts up to access the storage underneath, but I found it's been completely impractical when you've got this kind of a mattress on it. It's so heavy, because it's queen size, RV queen, that you can't really lift that panel up to get under there, so that's a little bit impractical. No issues with the windows. No major issues with the blinds either. Those have been all fine. The cupboards have not been an issue. The only thing I've noticed, and this is odd, is that this plastic stripping that's on the front, it almost looks like it's shrunk. I don't remember when I bought the rig if it was like that, but you can see there's some exposed wood there, then some exposed wood there. It's doing the same kind of thing on these cupboards here where it looks like it's shrunk. And I've noticed also on our table, the plastic wrap, like sort of edging that goes on the table, looks like it's shrunk too. So that's kind of odd. Door, no issues with the door. No major issues, I should say. My 3-year-old daughter did snap off this handle, and when I replaced it, I had to drill new holes into the aluminum because the handles that would replace it just was set up slightly differently. This is from the manufacturer, from Lippert, but the holes in this version that I got in 2023 did not match up perfectly with the holes from the original from 2017. So that was a little bit of a challenge. But the screen door itself is fine. The latch is fine. The lock is fine. Fire extinguisher. This actually had to be changed. This was part of a recall from the manufacturer because everything was plastic in terms of the nozzle and the triggers and everything. And there was a voluntary recall in 2018. You would ship back the other fire extinguisher and they would send you this new one that's a lot more robust. And yeah, it's still holding the charge, but we should probably replace that soon just based on age. DVD system, no problems with that. The only thing I've noticed with it is that when you turn this dial to adjust the volume, the connections in the back must be a bit dirty because the volume jumps all over the place. But it haven't had any major issues. No issues with the control panel. Everything works there fine. The King Jack TV antenna has worked well. Speakers, no problem. Lights, LED lights. This thing is full of LED lights. There's 2 of them there, 2 of them in the back of the rig. There's one above the bed. We have not had to replace a single LED bulb yet, so that's good. Electrical systems, everything's been fine. Countertops fine. No issues with the tap. Although it is plastic, so you've got to be, I always tell the kids, like, be gentle with it when you turn it on and off. No issues with the sink. Little scratched in places, but the sink, even though it's small and not very deep, it actually works quite well. 2-burner gas hob, everything's been good there. Nice big high point microwave. Of course, we're not hooked into 110 right now or 12 volts, so this doesn't work right now. But great microwave, nice and powerful. No problems with it at all. The fridge, Dometic fridge, other than the issue now with it freezing things, which I think is that thermistor. Hopefully I'm saying that right. We've had no major problems. We did have one little issue this past summer, which if it breaks again, I'll do a video on the channel. The plastic latches that go on either end of this freezer door, you can just about make it out down there in the corner. One of them broke. And I was able to acquire a new one. Well, actually, no, I glued it back together, plus acquired a new one. Acquiring a new one was a real nightmare. I ended up getting it from some random guy in Alabama on eBay. Couldn't really get one from the manufacturer. But installing it is a nightmare. There's a spring in there, and it's all under tension, which makes sense, right? Because it's designed to snap the door back up into position. But there's a knack to installing it, which I didn't understand, and I spent hours out here trying to figure out how to change that little plastic latch with the springs and get the door back in place right before we were going on a camping trip. Found a wonderful video from a guy in Australia, a caravan maintenance place in Australia, and the guy walked you through how to fix it. So if it breaks again, I'll do a video on the channel demonstrating how we fixed it. But other than the recent thermistor issue and the freezing issue, the Dometic fridge has been awesome. You can't see it, but the water pump is behind this cabinet door. It is a SureFlow pump, which back in 2017 was top of the line, and it's a little noisy. There's not a lot of padding under it. When we first bought the rig, the pump did seem to be cycling an awful lot when it was pumping water. And there are two little screws on the pump that you can make very, very, very fine adjustments to have the flow of the water and the pressure be a little more consistent. I don't recommend you play around with that if you're sheepish, because if you over-adjust it, you can really mess up the pump. But I found some videos online from some rather unique sources, and I was able to make some minor adjustments with a little tiny Allen key to get the flow of water working better. Furnace. Suburban furnace. When it works, it's amazing. It can take this little 19-foot interior space up to temperature very quickly. But again, those of you that follow the channel know that soon after we bought the rig, we discovered that the 12-volt wiring, which goes from the thermostat over the doorway, down the wall, and to the furnace, some idiot during the installation must have put a staple or something through it, because occasionally the wires were shorting out and it was sending a heat call to the furnace, and the furnace would just come on, regardless of what the thermostat was set to. So we ended up just finding the wires and tracing them and just giving them a gentle tug, hoping that maybe it would dislodge the staple from up inside the wall. And crazy as that sounds, it worked. We've had no more issues with the furnace. Bunks. We've had to add some extra padding for the kids because, again, it's this crappy teddy bear mattress stuff. It's too thin. So we've changed that to make it more comfortable. We did have to add a little bit of reinforcement. Oh, dead yellow jacket. A little bit of reinforcement here because the screws holding this little dividing wall separated and it moved out. Most of the weight distribution or weight support is on that far side around the head of the bed and here. But I did add this little bracket, which I probably should have maybe put underneath. But that is more solid than it probably was when it came out of the factory. No issues with the power converter down there and the fuses. I do have to change this carbon monoxide detector. It still works. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. But it is past its usable life. So as the rig is now 7 years old, I really need to change that. But it is hardwired into the 12-volt system. It's a propane leak detector and a carbon monoxide detector in one. We've got an external unit that's battery powered that we've been using. But ideally, I'd like to buy a replacement for that. I think it's about 80 bucks. Just a couple little Moret caps, and you can change that out. So we'll do that on the channel later. The actual thermostat, Suburban, just a basic thermostat. No problems there, other than the kids occasionally would kick it and pop the cover off when they'd be getting in and out of the bed. But other than that, it was absolutely fine. Bathroom. No issues with the toilet. It's a Dometic toilet. other than it creaks a little bit when you sit on it, but no issues with it. It's a little bit dirty. Looks like there's some hair or something on it. Oh no, that's on my screen. Never mind. Shower, no problems there. A little sandy, but no problems with the shower. No issues with the plumbing in the shower. No leaks. You know, we've winterized properly. Shower curtain's fine. No leaks in the ceiling. Roof vents have been fine. They've yellowed a little bit. We did install max air vent covers. Well, we had a dealer do that for us, just so that you could keep these open if it was raining, because ventilation in any rig is important, and especially in a smaller one like this. Dinette, no major issues with the dinette, other than the cushions tend to slide out a lot. This bottom cushion sometimes will slide forward, because it's just sitting on a little piece of flimsy board. And sometimes it'll slip forward, and then this cushion falls down, so you got to readjust it ever so slightly. And then one day my daughter tried to push, she was sitting sideways and tried to push herself back, and accidentally popped out this little screw that's in here, which holds this wooden piece that kind of keeps the cushion in place. That was a little bit of a bitch to fix that. The floor, no problems with the floor, no cracking in the vinyl. It's a single sheet of Bow Floor, I think it's called, is the brand name. It's stain resistant, cold crack resistant. It's one entire piece throughout the whole rig, and it's been fine. It does catch the dirt a little bit because it's got some texture, but you know, sweep it out with a good broom and mop it between trips, and hasn't been an issue. So now that we've kind of given you a bit of a detailed walkthrough on the bits and pieces within the rig, let's sit down and summarize. All right, let's summarize things a bit. Sorry about the mess. The whole thing is in winter storage right now, and haven't been in it for a little bit. So yes, in summary, again, we've owned it 7 years. We did put it on a 20-year finance term, which there's a lot of debate about how wise that is. I think we're paying, I don't know, like $75 a month or something like that. I can't remember what the percentage was. It was no money down, and it's over a 20-year term. So we're almost halfway through the term, and honestly, the rig is holding up really, really well. In terms of costs for maintenance, I don't have a precise figure. One of these days I'll put that together, but I would wager it's been maybe $1,000 in maintenance total, if that. You're looking at 2 tires on rims. Each tire was about $150. You're looking at 3 or 4 tubes of Dicor over the 7 years, because it's a small roof and the Dicor is excellent. Those are about $20 a tube. We've maybe paid, I don't know, a few $100 on little clips and odds and ends for inside the trailer, the screws and minor little bits of hardware. Some grease for the axles. We did pay to have the bearings and the axles professionally serviced once or twice, and that was about $100 a shot. And then when we had the wiring issue with the lights at the back, where we kept blowing fuses in the truck, which I forgot to mention in this video, but I have a whole separate video on that I'll link below. I think that was maybe $150. So in terms of additional maintenance, oh, and there was the control board for the hot water heater, and I think that was $75, which maybe I do need to add this up. But anyway, I would wager less than $1,500 Canadian over 7 years, which really isn't bad. I've known people that have owned rigs of a similar age where they've had to replace the entire toilet, or they've had to change the entire hot water heater, or the entire fridges needed to be changed, or they've had major structural problems or issues with the suspension. And really, we haven't had any of that. And I've said this on the channel before, but this is a very cheap entry-level trailer. But most of the components that Forest River put in this back in the day were good components. They were components that were used on higher-end rigs. I've seen this same fridge in Airstreams, and I've seen other components from Lippert that are used in this rig on some of the more expensive Forest River models. So, yeah, no major concerns with the quality. In terms of using it, when we got it originally, we had 2 kids, and they were maybe 5 and 7 at the time. And now we're looking at a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. And they're quite tall. My son is over 6 feet tall, so those bunks are starting to become a little bit uncomfortable for him. He's certainly got enough width and padding, but not an awful lot of length. Well, we've added 2 more kids to the pack since then, right? We've now also got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and it's getting a little bit tight in here. Yes, you could technically put 2 kiddos on the dinette, 2 big kids in the bunks, my wife and I at the front, but technically this rig is too small for what we need, but we're making it work. We don't spend a huge amount of time in here. It's more a base of operations, place to hunker down if the weather's bad, and just a place to sleep. So I guess in theory we could get a tent, a nice big cabin tent, put the big kids out in that if we needed to. Towing it, we've towed it with 2 different vehicles, well 3 technically. 2 minivans, Dodge Grand Caravans. One was a 2017, we now own a 2018. That has been interesting. The Grand Caravans, I don't want to cause a big debate on this. If you mention minivan and towing, people start foaming at the mouth. The van doesn't have an issue pulling the rig, but wind resistance is an issue because this thing's 10 foot 3 inches tall. The chassis and frames on these campers are built to accommodate either a camper with or without a slide out. And the slide out needs to be able to clear the wheel arches. So even though this camper does not have a slide out, it's very high off the ground because the bulk of campers nowadays have slide outs. If you look at campers in the the 60s, 70s, 80s, even early 90s, you'll notice a lot of them are a lot lower. So wind drag does become an issue with this vehicle, with this camper, I should say. Very stable though. We use the Blue Ox Sway Pro hitch, and I've never had the van getting pulled all over the road or felt like I've been losing control. And we've towed it in, calm weather, through thunderstorms. We even had one day where it was gusting 80 kilometers an hour, and it was a little white knuckle. We couldn't go super fast. We had to be careful, but the van handled it fine. The pickup truck, we had a Ram 1500 Warlock. You could barely even tell the camper was behind the truck. Towing with that was a dream, but we had to go back to a van. Too many kids. Long story. We didn't buy the camper as a financial investment. We didn't look at this and say, are we losing money? What's the resale value? We bought the camper to make memories with our children. And I have to tell you that the last 7 years, some of our most precious memories for us with our kids, and some of the things that my kids cherish the most, have been the camping trips. My kids are very nostalgic about the provincial parks that we go to. We always, as a family, have a wonderful time when we go camping. It's an escape from the rat race. You get to enjoy the finer things in life, get in touch with nature. You can't put a price on that, in my opinion. So am I losing money? Probably, absolutely, but that's not why I bought the camper. Will we eventually try to trade in what value is left on it for something bigger, something newer? Quite possibly. But I want to get into a situation where I can get into a truck again or a big SUV and move up to something a little bit bigger. But for now, the 197bh is continuing to run really well. It's looking in pretty darn good shape for a 7-year-old rig. We've taken good care of it, and we look forward to many more camping seasons to come. If this is your first time coming to the channel, please make sure you do subscribe, hit that bell button, give this video a thumbs up, send us your comments. We'll see. But now I'm rambling, which I do in my videos. So we're going to wrap this video up. All the best. We'll talk to you later.